I'm so good at this. Here we go. So we are live. Friday with Friends. 17 seconds in and still no views, but that's okay.
Yeah, that people pop up.
They do. They'll see it and they'll be like, oh, quick,
Oh, yeah,
let's
that's
grab a
right.
cup of tea
That's right.
and let's join them. But now
Yeah.
we have two people. Yay!
Yay!
One of them might be Sarah DeBeer. One
Hello,
of them
Sarah.
might be, oh, it's Kristen. There we go.
Hi,
And Lisa
Kristen.
Wilcox. Hooray. Well,
I
we're
just met
frozen.
with Kristen this morning.
You did?
Yeah,
Did you dance with her?
I did.
Oh, nice.
I did.
Hey.
Dancing on Fridays, which
There
is
you go.
so great. It's so great to just dance. And we're all in our little boxes on the screen, but we're actually all dancing to the same song. It's just really great.
So actually, Lisa, Megan is not in Frozen. She's more of a brave kind of girl. We got Gwen here. We've got Pete Abdallah, who is freaking awesome.
Hello, everybody.
And my buddy Scott Moore.
Hello, Scott Moore.
He's a freaking awesome guy. Totally is.
Hello, freaking awesome.
He is. And totally here with you. That's good.
Good.
All right. So some people might have tuned in to find out, my comments that I said that we first met in a hotel room.
We did.
We did. It's true. And
It's
there were
true.
lots of other people in that hotel room too,
Yes,
because it was an impromptu story swap, personal story swap, right?
Yes, it was. I
And-
believe that was Scott Whitehair's. Was it?
Is that-
It was Scott Whitehair.
I think it was, because that was the first time I met him too. Yeah.
Yeah. So he opened up his room. 10:30 was it? It was kind of late.
Yeah, it was late. It was. There
And
was a ton of people in there.
a ton of people crammed into a little room, and the permission was to tell stories that you're not going to tell out there. So there was,
Oh,
right? That was the permission quality to it, to stories that are a little more intimate or maybe a little more less shaped, something you don't tell usually.
yeah.
And so we were all piled on the bed and piled in the chairs and piled against the wall. And I remember we were so tight, in order to get your turn to tell, you kind of had to climb over the bed.
He did.
The other side
Your
of the
daughter. I remember your daughter was sitting on the bed, and I think she was in a jammy bottoms or something. Well, she was wearing pajamas. She had
Yes.
trouser pajamas on and everything.
Yes, she had.
She was 15 at the time?
Yeah, 15. Yes, and she brought her ukulele,
That's right.
and she has an inner performer, but she has a huge shy factor. So she brought her ukulele just in case. And I think
And she did.
Jill was there, and Jill encouraged her. Did Jill play too? I think Jill played with her, or maybe
Might have done.
she did some ukulele. That was a big moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember there was a guy that told us. See, I didn't realize what the parameters were.
Okay.
There was a guy there that told what I thought was a completely inappropriate and horrible story when I was a 15-year-old girl sitting on the bed.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I struggled with that, and I struggled with.
It really was. It was. I think people get. The number one priority is storytelling is about the audience.
Mhm.
No matter what you got on yours pressed to tell, you have an audience there.
Right.
I had that
Right.
too.
Yeah, and I kept.
Forgive you, but pay attention when there's 15-year-old girls in the room.
I know, right? I know. I went up to him and I was like, "Oh, should I say something?" And I was like, I don't know him. This is the first time I've seen him. It looks like he's a beginning storyteller. And I was like, is it my business?
Mhm.
And I really struggled with that a lot, actually.
Yeah. I do too. I get that. Because I don't always know what, and I know that we are about permission, and we rehearse in public. That's what we
Right.
do.
We
So
do.
the bravery to do something is that what needs to be praised more than
Yeah.
the feedback of, dude.
Yes.
But
You could also say, dude, that was really inappropriate and you need to work on that because it's a good story.
yeah.
But I didn't even feel that it was a good story.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember kind of moving in with Hannah and creating a mom field around her to protect her.
Yeah.
And it was shorter, so we got through it okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. God, I forgot
Anyway,
about that.
so your story. So this is what I really wanted to talk about was the story that you told.
Yes.
It blew me away. I was in the room and I was listening to all these different stories and I was just like, wow, this is freaking awesome.
Thank you.
And at the time it was, I really didn't like that much in the way of personal stories, which is why I went to that room to hear them, to see
Yeah.
if I could shift my dislike of them and
Yeah.
to gain a bit more understanding of them.
Yeah. Boy, we
But
could
yeah,
talk about this the whole time. We really could, because they have their place. They really have a very vital place. And there's this continuum of, are you talking a story that's really sort of just drawing attention and comfort into you?
hmm
And that's not a shared story yet. That's maybe a bar
right,
story sitting next to a friend or two.
yeah, or a
Um,
therapist story.
or a therapist story, or a therapist story, or a therapist story, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what the traditionals do is it just grounds us in structure,
yes,
so that when you come to personal stories, then it's like, okay, where's the structure? There needs to be a structure. There's something universal here. And
yeah.
so I think it's a good tension, right? I got to get my hands in the screen. How do I
Hang
get
on,
my hands in the screen? I'm a little seasick.
there you go.
It's a good tension, right? What's
Yeah,
too traditional, therefore it's too distant, and we don't relate to it. And what's too personal and too, I wouldn't even say intimacy, because intimacy is agreement between two people.
yeah,
Too self-absorbed, maybe, is that
yes,
a word?
I think so.
Yeah, too
Or maybe self-aware, self-conscious.
self-conscious.
Because some people they're not self-absorbed in their own story.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they haven't found that structure that you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's what Reggie Carpenter says. The best personal storytellers are those who come from a background of traditional stories because they've worked that structure.
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's a couple of people that one person I can think of, like Jessica Robinson,
Mm-hmm.
who does not come from a traditional storytelling background, but she worked in the film industry, and so she got that structure from the film industry.
Mm-hmm.
Which is how Adam Booth got his
Yeah,
his structure, because he went to film school, I believe, but he
totally.
also tells traditional stories.
Stories and traditional stories.
Yeah, right, right.
Well, it's a big movement here. I don't know if I'm sure you're aware that Chicago just kind of exploded, a huge
hmm
personal stories movement. And it was so big for about 6, 7 years that the
hmm
traditional stories were absolutely kind of lost. There wasn't a place for them. Um, but then somewhere around year 4, year 5, a lot of those personal tellers started to get hungry for more structure.
Oh,
So,
really?
which is great. It's really
Yeah,
great. It's exciting. And you can hear them grow and you can hear them improve. And then you're like, there's a structure in there. Yeah. Then it just sings out to the audience.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever see John Lithgow's story, his storytelling show
No. I
about
love
his?
that.
Yeah, it came up the road to Hanover, and I went to see it, and it was I couldn't tell if he was working from a script or, remembering a script, or if he was actually storytelling.
Mm.
And it was about his family, and it was unbelievably good.
Oh, I'm so
And
excited.
it was like this, it's a big stage, full stage, and he's got this minimalist set. There's like a 10-foot, carpet and a desk and a lamp and a plant and a wing back easy chair, and
Yeah.
that was it. And it was phenomenal,
Oh,
absolutely phenomenal.
I wonder if it's on YouTube. I'll go hunting. Maybe it's
You
somewhere.
should, you should,
Oh, I love that because I love him as an actor. And
yeah.
sometimes, and just because you're a great actor doesn't mean you're a great storyteller, obviously. And so it's wonderful when it turns out to be true. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a really good job. So I'm looking around because my dog keeps moving. So
Ah,
she's right behind me right now.
hello,
Out
dog.
you go.
Hello,
There you
dog.
go. She's a good one. She's a
Yeah.
keeper.
So personal stories. There in that hotel room, I was launching out a story that was very new, but I was really compelled by it because is a universal experience.
Hmm.
Um, but it started with some trouble. My therapist, my Jungian analyst is the proper word to use for her, Dr. Margaret Shanahan. I've never
Okay.
never been an analysand. I can't even pronounce it. Um, and
Analyzed.
analyzed or whatever you say, uh,
Analyzed.
analyzed. And he was the first person, because I sort of popped in and out of therapy at various periods in my life when I just couldn't sort of bear, I couldn't find my way through my own dark tunnels.
Hmm.
And she taught me about the dark feminine, and she used folktales.
Oh, wow.
And so she sort of poked around in helping me to sort out where my mom was my mom and where my mom was affected by the dark feminine and given herself over to the dark feminine. And I was just able to parse through that whole relationship with my mother.
Isn't that cool?
It was amazing through
Yeah.
folktales. The stepmother, the wicked stepmother, witches, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of your mom was a witch sometime. Wow. And I can see that now and know why I felt like Gretel and why I wanted to push her into the frickin' oven. And I can
Yeah.
accept and embrace all that and without taking it personal
Right. Yeah,
because
I've been in therapy for about 15 years.
yeah.
As an Englishman, it was only Americans go to therapists, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's like stiff upper lip and all that. Sort
Yeah.
yourself out. Don't be such a wuss.
Yeah.
And I had this like big old breakdown about 15 years ago, and I started seeing a therapist to get me through those dark times. I'm still seeing one now. In fact, I just got a new one because I wore out the old one, and she's retiring. But yeah, and my therapist that I've just wrapping up with, I keep telling her like, folk and fairy tales, come on, use it, use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's retiring out, so
Oh my God, it totally helps.
yeah.
I think I think building your imagination with fairy tales is therapeutic. I mean, it
Oh, totally.
totally it fills your archetypal range. Do we have some
Yeah, well,
questions?
I was just popping some
Yeah,
comments out. So Heather Forrest is the dark feminine, and
love it.
Rapunzel just
Makes
made
sense.
sense. Yeah,
Whole.
right.
So, so Margaret, Dr. Margaret Shanahan. Okay, so her partner was a Dr. Robert Moore, very erudite author, had a very grand reputation, and they were both very, very private. And he suffered from vascular dementia in his. He caught vascular or developed vascular dementia, which means it's kind of like strokes where
Oh,
the vascular system of the brain will just squeeze. And
ooh.
he went through a vascular dementia episode. Here's the dark.
Hmm.
Should we tell people to cover their ears? I don't know. He
Doesn't sound too dark.
her,
He did what?
shot her
Oh, okay.
in the head, and then shot himself.
Oh my gosh.
And so I got this phone call. Dr. Margaret is gone, and Robert took her out, and he took himself out. And I was like, how do you process that? I didn't know how to process that. And I'm in my kitchen when I get this call, and I'm sitting down attempting to process the loss of her in the first place, right?
Hmm.
And everything else. Um, and remembering all the, like, how memory does, it transports you time and place. So I was suddenly
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
the room with Dr. Margaret in her office, surrounded by all her images and pictures, moths everywhere, all over her walls. And there's a moth sculpture on the table, always in between her and I, because she believed in the moth as the symbol, not the butterfly, but the moth. So traveling, transforming the cocoons of the dark and emerging and flying through the darkness with the beautiful moth, right? So I'm sitting there in my kitchen processing that. And I look up on my kitchen curtains and there's a moth.
Wow.
And it's a big one, Simon. This
Yeah.
isn't one of your little, they hang around your front light of your house. No, this is a big ass moth and it's hanging on my curtains. So I go over to it and I'm like, I realize that my daughter had left the door open a little bit from the last dog pee,
Yeah.
and then this moth had flown in and was hanging on the curtains.
Wow.
And so I got very close to it. And it was just kind of filled with wonder. I mean, it is beautiful. It's the moth from the Silence of the Lambs. Do you remember that poster?
Yes, I do.
That moth from the Silence of the Lambs. And I'm thinking about him, his vascular dementia and violent.
Yeah.
The whole thing is sort of spinning me out a bit. And then I remembered Carl Jung, who is Margaret Shanahan's. She's a Jungian analyst.
Okay.
And Carl Jung is belief in the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
All right. And he tells a story of sitting with a woman in Alexand for a long time. She keeps dreaming scarab beetles. Scarab beetles are in her dreams. And he's just guiding her to be with that and the sense of it. And she has a full understanding of what the scarab beetle means. Finally, it's symbolic unity with her identity of what she's going through. And Carl Jung puts his hand up like this. This is an absolute true story. Puts his hand up like this, and a scarab beetle flies in through the window and lands on his hand.
Oh my gosh.
And the two of them are just like, it's all one, it's all connected. So she'd been dreaming these scarabs in this space, and they've been talking scarabs. And he just saw it coming, and there it came. And so I was thinking that, and here's the moth, right? I'm like, oh my God, this is a Carl Jung moment. Now here's the moth. And I'm realizing another aspect that I had learned about horses. There's a lot of digression
Horses.
to this, and it's not too much longer.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Okay.
We got as much time as you want.
Comes into my mind is horses. Because I had gone with my eldest daughter. We'd gone to Mackinac Island, which is all horses, not a single car. She had convinced me to go on a horseback ride on her way down the hill to the stable in order to rent these horses for the ride. She tells me the story of her camp experience where this was horse Nico just kept dumping. Every trip they went out, who was Nico going to dump? This horse would just go down and dump them. This is the story she's telling me. So we get there. We get these two horses. I asked for a gentle horse because I haven't ridden a lot of horses. I get on the horse, and I'm thinking about Claire's story about somebody being dumped by Nico. Yeah, what does my horse do?
Dump you.
Dumps me. Totally goes down. And I just barely roll off. I'm very fortunate. I barely roll off. And as the horse comes down, barely misses my leg. I hit my head and I come up, and I'm just like, what just happened? And then the horse person comes over like, I'm like, I'm really okay. I need to get back on the horse. She's like, what? All I can hear is my mother's voice. When you get tossed, you just get back on the horse. So I know I got to get back on the horse. So we finished that ride. All right. So then I learned about horses. Why did that happen? That happens because horses, you communicate to horses through pictures. Horse whisperers whisper through pictures. they see the horse doing what they want the horse to do, and the horse sees what they're seeing. And so there's
Oh,
a visual language with horses and riders. So the horse I was on was seeing me see him go down. He's just doing what I told him to do.
yeah.
So the horse went down because that's the instructions that my mind was giving this horse. So
So you're
what,
not only a storyteller and an actress, you're a horse whisperer as well.
a horse whisperer. So I am thinking that now with the moth, right? Okay, now we're back to the moth.
Mhm.
And I realize that as Margaret has just died,
Mhm.
I'm not the only person. Everybody's getting phone calls. All these people are getting these phone calls. All these people are holding this image of themselves sitting in Dr. Margaret's office. They're all holding and radiating the picture of the moths on her wall and the moth that sat between us as we did this really intimate work. And I realized that my moth in my mind at that moment had called that moth in through the door to mate with the moth in my mind. And I was just gobsmacked. I was just like, thank you
Yeah.
for coming, but I'm not a moth. That's a moth in a mind. So you need to go back out and go find yourself a real moth. So I don't remember what I had. I found something. A spatula, and I just kind of gently scooped the moth up off of and I pulled the curtains back, and I walked it out, and I put it on a tree, and turned around, came back in the house, went and sat down in the living room to process this. And guess where the moth is?
Back in the living room.
On my leg.
Oh, it's on your leg. No way.
The moth had come off the tree to be with me
Oh, wow.
and came in
That's
with me. And I just sat there with that moth. And all I could think about was how Margaret had sat with me as I was moth for months. Just sat with me while I mothed. And so finally, after some time, I finally was like, dude, you really got to go, that I made more sure that it was on the tree. And I was changed by that, Simon. I was profoundly changed. My awareness of how much we actually communicate to each other all the time. We think that it's all just face and words, but it's not. I think we're actually reading each other's feelings and minds. We're way more transparent than we think we are.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
So anyway, that's the story that I told there.
Right.
And
except without the interruptions from me. Yeah. So that was because I couldn't remember the story.
Yeah.
You told then.
Yeah.
I just remember it being like one of the
right.
Yeah.
Stories is moth.
So going back to the theme of that story, have you read the Celestine Prophecy?
A long time ago, I did read the Celestine Prophecy.
Back in the 80s when we were all
in the 80s, we were all
dabbling with new age hippie stuff.
Right. And then also Carlos Castaneda books. Did you
Oh
read
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did. I read all of those. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he talked about how people are, he wasn't saying how more transparent we are, but he was talking about how we connect through these fibers, right? And that was something that Carlos Castaneda also talked about.
Fibers.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that I personally, I don't know if you do, but I think there's definitely some truth to that. I think with our at least with our energy, maybe not these like spidery tendrils and stuff, but I definitely think that our energy is projected towards each other.
Yeah.
Joe Radner, I love Joe. She's freaking awesome.
I'm
She says,
being
I'm being very careful about the images in my mind now. Is that in case we pick up on them, Joe?
oh my God, that's great.
She's
Well,
great.
maybe that is really all psychics are. Maybe we don't have
Right.
to be like psychic is woo woo. Psychic is just someone who's gotten really good at,
Yeah.
just I can see what's in there.
I
What's
just started reading this book called The Emotional Code.
mm,
And this guy's done a lot of energy work. And he's talking about that kind of stuff and how energy, a lot of illnesses are caused by energy blockages. And
mhm.
energy, the blocked energy creates these imbalances with our physical body, and then like the disease happens, this dis-ease happens.
Yes.
So elephant dreams, no elephant dreams. That's I'm trying
No,
to think what that.
I love elephants. I wonder if anybody else out there has a
Yeah, does anybody else have any of these
have a
like these moments
little connection.
where the synergy of the world just comes together like that?
Certainly, we have it with our dogs and our cats,
Oh yeah,
birds.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
I want to show you my girl, but it'll be too much of a
Oh,
mess. She's such a good girl.
she's
She
sleeping.
really is.
I've had this
No, no,
wonderful
she's.
experience recently with this dog that's visiting me, a very precious person. My mentor just had a stroke, a big one. And so I've
Mhm.
had this dog. Now he is a spiritual director, so he sits with people. So the dog's now living with me. And I realize after like 3, 4 days that the dog is running my schedule. And not only is the dog running my schedule, the dog is running Hal's schedule
Oh really?
because Hal sits with people. And
Uh-huh.
after that, the dog plays ball.
Oh.
And so he's used to that routine. So he's used to letting me do work. I can work for about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours maximum. And then he's like, ball, ball. And so it's just this lovely, like, our dogs. So Hal's dog is bringing Hal's world to me
Which is really cool.
which is really cool. And it's good for me to take a break every 90 minutes because I don't usually
Yeah.
do that. I can just sit and burn.
Oh, yeah. That was me yesterday. It
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, I just sat down at the desk and I think I was, apart from pee and food and coffee breaks or tea breaks, that was it. It was all just
Oh,
headphones on as I'm editing this work. It's like, oh.
oh my
And then
God.
there were like these, when I got off and checked my email, well, I actually got a text from a friend of mine, Cooper. There were like a couple of fires going on that I had no idea about. So I was like, oh, great.
Oh,
Now I got to refocus.
oopsie.
Yes. It's like, it's all right. I'll get on it. I'll fix it out. But
Yeah.
we'll be good. So Heather says something about chipmunks, but that's all she says.
Oh, I bet she's
Miss-
saying that she has communication connection with chipmunks.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But she doesn't say what the connection was.
Yeah, well, maybe it's too much to type in a little box.
I guess maybe I'll have to have her back on the show and we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
And Erin J, she says, have a personal story about a deer and a woodchuck who picked up what I was thinking. I
See,
can tell you.
we're gonna have to do this. We're going to have a concert of conversations with conversations that have with animals.
I think that'd be really cool.
Wouldn't that be cool? Deer and woodchuck change behavior when I change my thoughts. Totally. I totally.
Yeah, I totally get that.
I
Yeah.
just think how
Children do the same thing.
children do the same thing.
They do. They
Yeah.
do. Because Aiden, my son, Aiden. He's 20 now, and he was amazing. He's an old soul. So he seemed to understand when I needed to do stuff, and then I'd take a break and we'd do things together, right? Whereas Perry, my daughter, that wasn't the type of person that she was. So she'd be like, "Daddy, daddy, 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 daddy."
Now.
Right. And so I had to completely, because I get really like, I've got to do some work,
Yeah.
I'm a stay-at-home dad and I'm a storyteller. I've got to do.
Yes.
And there were times when I was like, all right, I just got to give her time. And our relationship got so much better when I started to be like, all right, I got to give her time because she's just a little kid. She doesn't understand all this stuff. I got
No.
lucky with Aiden, who seemed to accept it if he didn't understand it.
Yes.
But kids are different, and so I needed to treat the new one very differently to the older one.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah. So then slowly Perry taught you a new schedule.
Yeah, she did, which was actually really good.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Yeah.
So
Perry.
Kristen says, for me, dragonflies and hawks. Yes, because Kristen you must have seen that post from Kristen about, very unusual places. They're guides for me. I love that.
Yeah.
And Gwyn.
Conversation with owls at times only on their own terms, of course.
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh,
Of
Gwen.
course.
Yes.
Owls are kind of like, they're the cat of the air, I think.
Yeah, the cat of the air, right?
Yeah.
Of owls.
I do too.
Catch them.
First time I held an owl, it was like years ago in England, and I was about 15 or something. Went to this falconry place, and I'm looking at this huge owl. I mean, it was massive, right? And I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be so heavy. And I got the glove on, I'm holding my hand out, and the guy puts it on. I'm like, whoa, it's so light. This thing was like lighter than a bag of coffee, and it was like 8 times the size. It's like, how does that happen?
It's the bone.
Yeah, they're hollow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Those birds are incredible. Yeah. And I did some work with a spiritualist teacher called what's her last name? Oh, it's just gone. Denise. She's Cherokee. But I had these feathers before. I would go to these like falconry and bird sanctuaries when I was younger, and I would collect feathers, which of course you can't do that now.
No.
But I had this eagle owl feather.
You have to be wise.
Yeah, right. And her spirit animal, I think, was an eagle, but she also did a lot of dream work and talked a lot about owls. Mm-hmm. So the second time I went to see her, I had this eagle owl feather. Mm-hmm. And she was like, there's no such bird. I was like, yeah, there is. It's from Russia. And she was, like I said, she was a native person from over here. And crows, yes, I love crows. And crows are smart. Crows and ravens are very intelligent birds.
They sure are.
I've seen birds playing in the, like crows. I think it was ravens, actually. I thought I saw ravens playing in the snow once. They were sliding down a bank.
I love that.
Yeah.
There's a fabulous book. Did you read that one? I think it's just called Ravens.
No, I haven't.
It's the whole book is about raven behavior. Ooh. And it's just amazingly written. And you can't help but just fall in love with these crazy birds.
I know. They are good. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. I love that. I love all these animals that people are telling us.
I know. So Erin's saying that, Gwyn, I've talked to owls, but I think they misunderstood me. I want to know how they misunderstood you. Did they suddenly think that you're a mouse or a vole and fly down and take you away? And blue jays. Blue jays.
Yeah, they're
I have a
their own business, those blue jays.
They are.
They're really about their own business. They can be admired for that. I just don't see anybody else's egg anywhere near a blue jay.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Egg eaters.
They're pretty.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan. And their song is the blue jay song is it's horrible.
Oh, Winston read that Raven book. Did you love that? I loved that book. Yeah, and of course, I'm absolutely in love with elephants and the way that elephants communicate with each other.
I need to learn more about that. My brother's very much into. They fed each other their mates. Like a praying mantis. What are you talking about?
We're not quite sure how to interpret that sentence.
We're not.
There, Aaron. The narwhal.
Squirrels.
Did you know this? The narwhal whales. It is the narwhal.
I just first read this as the Protestant animals, squirrels. But I was misreading it. The persistent ones.
Yes, the Protestant squirrels as opposed to the Catholic squirrels.
I know.
I love blue jays. Like the feathers they leave me.
The feathers are beautiful.
So.
And Heather says our barn swallows come back from South America the week of April 21st every year.
Ah,
Oh, yeah. So I'll tell you a little story,
okay.
which just came to mind. I'd forgotten all about it until Heather just posted that up.
Good.
So when I was a kid, I was probably, I don't know, 13 or so. We used to get these swallows coming in and making nests around our house, and we had this one swallow that crashed really hard into the window, and we thought it had killed itself, but we wrapped it up in a towel and put it in a box. And I wanted to keep it in my bedroom, but my evil stepfather said it had to go in the garage. And it was, in hindsight, it was probably a good thing, because when we got home from school the next day, the bird had got itself out of the towel that we'd wrapped it up in to keep it warm. And the box was like on the floor, and it was like flying around the garage, hitting the doors and everything, the windows. And so we let it go. But the next day, I felt that there were like half a dozen swallows, and they were, when I was walking home from school, which is about a 3 mile walk, when I was walking home from school, these swallows started to fly in my vicinity all the way home. And I always wondered if it was like, could it be? And of course, 13-year-old, of course it is. Yes,
Of course it is.
of course it is.
Yeah.
And so my 13-year-old self was totally into like, oh, that's the one that I saved. That's the one that
Yeah.
wrapped up and kept warm.
Yeah. Well, elephants come back to say thank you. I don't see why swallows wouldn't.
Right.
Well, and here's the other thing that, we know we're evolving, the human brain.
Are we?
I don't know we're
Are we
like
though?
evolving. But why not? Why wouldn't animals be evolving too? Animals are also getting
Yeah.
smarter and more conscious and more aware, which is pretty cool.
It is. Well, they're going to have to survive all the mess that we make.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
3 seconds of creation here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh. Surprised they haven't started dive bombing us like in the movie Birds.
There was a whole
You
thing.
pests! You horrible humans! Get off our planet! You're messing it up.
There's I'm sorry, it's just going to be apocrypha, but early on in the COVID, sometime around April, there was a big article, and I believe it's in Africa, where the monkeys were coming aggressively out of the woods and trying to take over the homes.
Really? I did not see that story.
Yeah. Because, they weren't being kept back by the traffic. They weren't being kept. They had free reign. So in their freedom, they were like kind of like evolving. Maybe we should live in houses. It's just this moment. Oh my God! It's
Planet of the Apes.
But it
We'll
really
be put in cages. We'll be the ones in the zoos being watched.
Yeah, it really was. Like, we
Yes.
gotta do better. We gotta do better. Let's hurry up and do better.
You buggered up our planet. You're going to go in the cages now, and we're going to fix the mess that you got us into.
Oh my gosh.
So you've got this new thing going on right now, which is called New Moon Stories.
Yeah, Moonshine series.
Moonshine. Is that what you're calling it?
It makes it shine. Moonshine series. And
Is that
so
because it's a little tipsy? Is that?
just a little bit of moonshine, but I think the thing is that we've really become driven by a calendar, and really we function better when we're driven by the sun and the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather and all these things, when we make our decisions based on what we do, based on the world we live in, as opposed to the clock and the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So I started paying more attention really paying attention to the full moon. And then we decided to do Dracula, of course, on the full moon, because it fell on Halloween. It was a blue moon. And then we and went, the impact of the moon was actually, Simon brought the moon. You brought the moon into that concert.
I did.
The moon is there. And we started to think about that the moon is an audience member for storytelling. Always has been. and it's not been given a chair in recent years. So we
I think she has by some of us.
yes, by some of us. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think some of us love the moon enough that we always got a little space for her.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will erase how I said that. We wanted to also join in others in putting a chair for the moon. So we decided, well, we should do all the full moons. Oh, well, they're not all on Saturday. What are we going to do?
Jeez.
Just do it on whenever
Yeah.
the moon is. Let the full moon determine the calendar. So that's what we decided to do. Every full moon, no matter when it is.
New moon or full moon?
Full moons for now. We're looking at new moons, and what we want to do with the new moons is new tellers, new stories, new tellers on the new moon. And we're doing it February. You and I are doing one on the new moon.
Yeah, but I'm not a new teller.
But
I'm a nut-teller, but not a new teller.
Teller. No, that's not Moonshine Series. I just made a mental leap to a new moon in February.
To a new moon in February. Yes, we are. We're going to tell love stories together.
Yeah, we're going to do love stories together on a new moon. So, but anyway, that's what we're doing. So if anyone's interested, it's on Facebook, or you could just email me, Megan@meganwalls.com. And I'll get you
the next new moon story is 29th of December.
Yes, 29th.
But you don't have the tellers yet.
Not quite yet, but we're making phone calls right now. It's the light moon or the cold moon.
Ooh, yeah, because it's December.
Because it's December.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So mark that on your calendars, folks. Make sure December 29th, Megan's new moon stories.
They're always going to be recorded. So we're going to then have the recording for a month. So from moon to moon, you can watch the Beaver Moon, which we just did. Beth Horner and Anna Harding and myself and Janice and I wrote. You can watch that until the next moon. And then, so it'll be from moon to moon. That's what we're planning to try.
Yeah, Aaron J. said that your eagle story was the best description of that act that I've ever heard. That act is the act of mating. Dating. Sorry.
Dating.
Sorry. Dating.
They date in the air. They mate in the trees.
Okay. Sorry. No,
that's all right.
I shall humbly apologize.
I started telling
to the eagles.
People say, "How do they do that in the air?" And I'm like, "No. Dating. They test out trust and timing and all of that stuff. Fear, courage, who's going to lead? Can we dance together? They test all that out. And then if that works, then they go to the trees. Eagles.
Oh, Misty Mater, she says, oh, yeah, you can always tell when it's full moon in our house. Is that because everyone goes crazy? Does everyone become lunatics?
Or werewolves.
Or werewolves. Oh, I bet in her family they're a bunch of werewolves. She likes the idea of new tellers on the new moon.
Yeah, good.
Have you talked to Misty? Maybe she could be one of your...
That's great. Megan@meganwalls.com, Misty.
There you go.
Yeah, that is the biggest lining for me with this COVID. And I'm sorry I'm going to be emotional because I'm so... our community is there's no geography anymore. And
right.
Phenomenal experience that is for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, I'd worked with you on a couple of projects, like behind the scenes as technical crew, but you know, it opened us up to
absolutely
creating this new friendship, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
I have to say.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like the idea of the new moon in full moon. So
January, the full moon. Yes. So exciting. And everybody's doing exciting things. Oh my gosh, there's
they are.
It's so any day you could go to 10.
Yes. Well, on every Saturday you can go and visit with Liz Weir, who's actually here watching right now. And that show is I've only been to one so far because of all the other things that are going on and trying to spend some time with my family.
Yes.
If it wasn't for my family, Liz, I'd be with you every Saturday.
Yeah.
it's one of the most real shows that I've seen of storytelling. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's hard for me
And
to
that's
not
at
cry when
3 o'clock in the afternoon, I
I
think.
just kind of sit there and quietly cry because I think in America, this is my personal experience. I won't make any big, but I only know of my ancestry in like a teaspoonful of sugar. That's all I know of my ancestry. And my soul, I've always sort of been like, I want to go home. 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 Well, where's home? Megan, shut up. You are home. I want to go home. And then I sat in your barn, Liz, that first time in your barn. And I thought, that's what it is. I have this genetic part of me that wants to go home. And so the immigration process interrupted a lot of those genetic belongings. And
Yeah.
so we are sort of, so we replaced home maybe with nuclear family and house and things and stuff. I don't know. I don't know. We have to sort of think about, what does it mean I'm an American? I don't know what that means. We don't know what it means, really. We say, make America great again. I say, make American people great again. Like, I don't know. Anyway.
And that's it for our political thing for today, folks.
Anyway. Home. Home.
I know what, it's, home is where your hat is, but I think there's an awful lot to our DNA and our genetics and where we come from originally, way back when.
I think there is DNA going on.
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah.
And because when I first came to the States, when I visited the States in the 80s for 3 months, it felt like coming home for me, which was really weird. So I don't know if that was like some past life weird thing going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. There are more things on heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophies, for sure.
You're welcome, Liz.
You're welcome.
It's all true.
We walk on stray sod till we're home. Amen.
Oh, geez, Heather, that's such a... Did you just make that up, Heather?
She does.
Or is that a quote from something? That's just beautiful.
Well, for me, stories are home. Storytelling became my home.
Yeah, for me too.
Mm-hmm.
It really was, and the people that I met.
Yeah.
They're definitely family.
Yeah.
Joe Radnor's part of that family. Kristen's part of that family.
Yes.
Heather is like you. Heather and I are becoming good buddies.
Yes.
Which is, excellent. I love it.
Yeah. Maybe we're all really travelers.
We are. It's not books anymore that we travel in. It's Zoom.
It's Zoom. Yeah.
Dear. Nuts. Hey, should we share a story?
Yes, let's share a story.
Can we share a story? I don't know, because I wasn't really thinking about sharing a story, but I just feel that we need to tell a story for some reason.
All right.
So, what we could do, we could ask our wonderful audience for a story suggestion, and if we both know it, we could see if we could fudge it.
Fudge.
I was on, yes. Me, yeah, so Erin just said she's at home on the stage, and I feel the same way. So I played in a rock and roll band when I was a kid, and it took me a while to get used to being in front of an audience. The first time I performed in front of 2,000 people, I had serious stage fright, but I got over it, and it was freaking awesome. It was just amazing, and I loved every minute of it. And now it's there's something very, I don't know what it is. It's not ego either. It's not like, oh, look at me, I'm on a stage, I'm super duper. It's definitely not that. It's something about connecting with an audience.
Yes.
And it's the connection for me anyway. So how is it for you?
Yeah, absolutely the same. I use a female word. It feels like priestess work.
Yeah. Well, you are a bit of a priestess, so I could totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the word? You guys that all remember.
Sarah DeBeer was here. She'd know it.
Yeah.
And if she didn't, she'd look it up and tell us. And give us a link.
It's not the old channels. They use.
Yeah.
Oh.
Isn't it channels? Channel?
Channels?
Yeah, because you would channel the goddess, right?
channeling. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
good.
it's channeling.
So I feel mostly what I feel is useful. I feel really useful. Yeah. When the story, I know that the imagination is being honored and fed, then I feel really useful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, when I was watching Rachel Ann Harding do her Snow White story, that was, I mean, everyone's was really, really good. I'm a bit of a traditionalist, really. Um, and when I heard Rachel Ann's version, I was like, oh my gosh, it just, when you see something and you think, oh, this is what I was doing, but now I can see another way of doing it, and I can do this now.
Yeah.
And that was how it was when I saw Anne telling Snow White. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I can totally up my game, because she just opened a little
Yeah.
door.
Open.
Yeah, yeah. And that's another wonderful thing about this COVID, is that I'm getting to see so many more storytellers than I've
Yes.
ever seen before. So
Me.
Animal Fable, which was suggested by Heather Forrest. We've got two people that said yes. Misty Mater said yes. That's not two people. So what animal fable?
Do we love? Oh,
Do you know the tortoise and the hare? Well,
Oh, dear, Tortoise, I don't know if I can do it today, but I'll try.
looks like we're doing tortoise and the hare.
Is that what I heard?
Well, I don't know if somebody wants to suggest another one, because I don't know that story very well, funnily enough. But I think it's simple enough that I can fudge it.
well,
You've already
Oh, Fox and the Stork.
rabbit.
Fox and the Stork. Oh no, Rabbit's very intense. Rabbit's always talking. He's like, I gotta be here, gotta be there, gotta be everywhere. It's
I think Rabbit is good casting for Simon. What do you guys think?
Somebody woke me up and said we're having a race.
We're having a race. Yes, we're having a race. We're having a race right now, because you're just too slow and I'm way fast.
Well, where do we gotta go?
Well, Farmer Brown's field. Farmer Brown, he has a nice field. He's just plowed it. He's just nice straight lines, and we can run up and down, run up and down, and run up and down. So how about tomorrow morning? We'll have a race. Would you like to have a race tomorrow morning? Whatever time you want. What time do you get up? Do you get up late? Do you get up early? I don't know. What time would you like to get up? I'm sorry.
I have to have my lettuce.
Oh, well, okay. Well, why don't we meet tomorrow at about how about 20 plenty? Does that sound okay? We could do 20 plenty, and we'll meet at Farmer Brown's field as soon as the sun gets so high. Is that all right?
Whatever you said, I couldn't keep up.
So the plan was made. Hare and Tortoise were going to meet at 20 plenty when the sun was only so high up at Farmer Brown's field, where it was freshly ploughed and the deep furrows were like race tracks that they could both run up and down. Now, Tortoise realized that he was not going to be as fast as Rabbit, but he had a plan.
Well, I'm just gonna do what I always do. I just pick up one foot when I put it down. Then I pick up the other foot when I put it down. And that's what we got. And
That's what you're going to do? That's what you're going to do?
Yeah.
So the next morning, they both got there. And I think we know different versions. So they got there. They're both at the starting line. And Hare's stretching and stretching and stretching his legs, stretching his arms. He's stretching his back out. He's stretching his tail. He's stretching his whiskers. He's stretching his nose. And he's definitely stretching his ears so that he is all stretched out and ready to go. What was Tortoise doing?
Chewing the last bit of lettuce.
Well, because Raven was interested, he flew down from the trees and settled down on a fence post right next to the field. And Raven looked on. What's going on here, then? Hey, what's going on here? And Tortoise told him.
Well, Rabbit has this idea that we got to go from here all the way to there.
Oh, yes, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We're going to run. And of course, I'm going to win because I'm the quickest of them all. So there was Hare getting all jazzed up. And Tortoise suggested to Raven that he could say, on your marks, get set, off you go. And off Hare ran.
I'm going to pick up one foot. I'm going to put it down. And I'm going to pick up another foot. And then I'm going to put it down. And then I'm going to repeat the activity with my back 2 legs.
And Hare, he cast a look over his shoulder. And he squinted. And he couldn't believe his eyes because way back there at the very foot of the field where the furrow was at its deepest, Tortoise was still there. Not Turtle, because Turtle is in the water. This is Tortoise, because tortoises live on the land, for those of you that are writing Turtle. So, just to make clarification. And so he thought, well, I don't need to write. It's a beautiful day out. It's 20:30 plenty. And I think, oh, there's a dandelion. And so he went over and started to chew on the dandelion and suck all the juices out and decided to take a nap. Because he thought he could have plenty of time to take a nap and would still win the race. And Tortoise found a little bit of lettuce and picked it up and carried on walking as he chewed on it. And Tortoise passed Hare. And there was Hare laying on his back, his ears out, getting a little pinker in the sun, and the dandelion just fell out of his mouth.
Good day to you, Hare.
Oh, what's going on? Oh, what is, oh, ah. Anymore, but jumped up and ran. Off he took like a rocket down the field. But he hadn't gone very far when he turned around and saw Tortoise still way behind. So I thought, well, I think I can, yes, it's just after 20:30 plenty, and I think there's another dandelion. And he sat down after picking up the dandelion and started chewing on it, looking up at the clouds, imagining all the different creatures the clouds seem to change into.
Well, look at that. I'm just putting one foot up and putting it down. I'm picking up the other one and I'm putting it down. And then I'm repeating the behavior on the backside.
I think she's done this before. And so Hare fell fast asleep, and Tortoise came up beside him again. And he passed Hare. He didn't say anything to Hare this time. Raven flew
a good nap
over the field and landed at the far side on the fence. And of course, the next time Hare woke up was when Raven called out, "Tortoise is the winner!"
Oh, did I win?
Yes, you did. You definitely won. Old Lazybones over there, he's still fast. Oh, no, now he's running. He's trying to catch up.
Can I have some more lettuce?
I think so. And Raven flew off into a nearby field with his nice sharp talons, grabbed a couple of pieces of lettuce because every winner needs a prize, and dropped them off for Tortoise.
Oh, shoot. Now I gotta turn around and go home. Oh, I know how. I'm gonna pick up this foot and put it down. And then I'm gonna pick up this foot and put it down. And then, yes, they'll say it with us. Then I'm gonna repeat the activity on the backside.
The end. Oh my gosh, that was very silly. I kind of like doing this where you're making stuff up as you go along. I do like your tortoise.
Totally making it up.
Yeah, that was excellent. I loved it.
Grab that tortoise part right out of the box, though.
Oh, that was fun. So I know the English version of that,
Okay.
which is the race is up and down the field,
Oh.
and Mrs. Tortoise and Mr. Tortoise have a plan, and so Mrs. Tortoise goes to the far end of the field because Mr. Hare is all about himself and doesn't, he wouldn't notice, and so Hare goes bolting down the field, gets to the end and sees Mrs. Tortoise, and it's like, so the race isn't finished yet. We've got to get all the way back down to the other end, and so he runs all the way back down to the other end. And Mr. Tortoise is just turning around and going back, and he crosses and I the way that I tell it is they do it until Hare is absolutely exhausted. He's just like pulling himself through the furrow, and there's Mrs. Tortoise up in front of him.
That's great. Now I have a new variant. I grew up in a, good English Protestant home where, I was told to pick one foot up and put it down.
Oh, that's funny.
I know is start here, go there, don't stop.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, really.
No.
I mean, and if you're going at Tortoise's pace, you get to see an awful lot on the journey.
You get a whole lot on the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of our inner life is the tortoise, isn't it? And our mind is our hare.
Yes, that's a very true statement.
The soul is more tortoise about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's when we get a little bit discombobulated, is when the head is so far in front of the heart. And there's that disconnect, and we need to bring them back together again.
Yeah.
Oh, Jane says she likes the non-cheating version better.
Okay, good.
Jane, I got to be honest with you, Jane. I kind of like the cheating version better because the way that I portray Hare is just he's just this big arrogant like know-it-all, and I guess it's my stepfather.
Oh, so in your version, there's more comeuppance.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and there are other versions as well, because I know that there's a version with frogs, and the frogs do the same thing in another culture. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Sue Berg Quentes says, Senor Tortuga and Senor Libre is told in Texas and Mexico. I hope I didn't butcher that. Yeah. Deep? What was deep? I don't say anything deep.
Brought it back to spiritual distance.
So I think so this we were talking about that earlier, and I think there's a lot of that in our stories that we tell.
Yeah.
And we don't always know what we're telling until years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. My mother used to, when I was first starting out, she was like, "Our folk tales useful." and my brothers too. They're like, I guess Megan's in entertainment.
Right.
And then as she came to the end of her days, I told her Selkie.
Oh.
I told her
the woman of the sea.
And she got peace from it. That she was going back, that she was finding her sealskin and she was putting it back on.
Yeah. God, I love those stories.
She was going back.
Yeah. Those are incredible stories when you look at it. The environmental aspects of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're all that. They are all.
Everything we need to know is in a story.
It's in a Silka story.
Specifically.
Specifically, I think so, yeah.
Only that one.
Yeah. Well, not just that one, because I'm thinking of the one where the young lad goes out and he kills all these seals.
Yeah.
And he injures this big bull seal, and somebody visits him and takes him to the edge of the cliff, puts a red cap on him, and they jump in.
Yes.
And that's the only person that can save the bull seal is the guy that put the knife in.
Yes, I know.
And to me, that speaks volumes about the environment and how we're messing it up, and how we're the only ones that can take the knife out.
Absolutely right. And for me, I go inward with it, because that's my tendency, is that the only one who can undo the trauma wound that you made is yourself.
Right.
Right, because things happen to us, but the trauma wound is
all ours.
It's all ours. You don't need the perpetrator to do your work.
No, you don't. In fact, it's probably better that you don't.
I do.
Just saying. Just thinking out loud here.
Excuse me, I have some work to do. Will you come over?
Now sit down there. Ignore the leather straps I'm putting around your wrist and the electrodes on your head.
Yeah. Sit down.
Oh dear.
Oh.
My son Misty says her son Rhino loves the animated Song of the Seal with the Selkies. Yeah, that's good. That's a good. And The Secret of Ronin-ish. I mentioned this
Oh,
before.
I love The Secret of Ronin. I love
Yeah,
it.
that's a good one.
Oh.
Rhino might be a bit young for that right now.
I just wept and wept and wept through that. I guess that's some of that home feeling too.
Right. I think we should get a whole bunch of us and go to Ireland and Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
We should organize a trip. We should do that.
Mm-hmm.
When COVID's
I was
over.
also thinking about that. I was thinking of, okay, so I know Liz at Janice has already said this about what a massive connection she had when you did your Glenn's festival, when she was experiencing the tellers tell in place, and me too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking about America, how we don't tell in place. So I was thinking about how could we start telling in place here? What stories need to be told at what places, right? We could certainly all go to the Statue of Liberty and tell a couple of stories there. I mean, there's places we could tell at that need stories.
But I mean, they also don't have to be landmarks, as it were.
Yeah, landmarks.
I mean, if I'm thinking of, as you said that, I'm thinking there's a farm not too far from, like, really close to here, which is called Muster Fields. It's where the soldiers used to muster. And I was, you could go and tell the hare and the tortoise right there. If they plow the fields, you could sit on a rock or a box or something and tell the story right there. And hare went tearing down the field.
Oh my God, totally.
Right?
Love that.
And when we were out hiking the other day, the light was beautiful. It was on this barn. It's an old barn. And there's a stone wall that it kind of rests upon. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, I think I'm going to film a story there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now it's getting a bit cold. And
yeah, it's getting a little bit.
But I'm thinking about it because I got the camera. I could go out into the woods and do some stories out in situ, which would be awesome. I would love to do that.
I love that. I do.
I was thinking about the streams, though. They create white noise, which might bugger up the voice. So I'm going to have to see if I can find a microphone that would deal with that.
It's like having a bagpipes in the back. That,
And yes, some people might find that enjoyable.
Or not.
Or not. No, I do like the bagpipes.
Yeah.
I do like the bagpipes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jane also is. Oh, what did you say? Hang on.
Yeah. Stories in the.
Yeah, not necessarily landmarks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think we need more of that.
We do. We do.
COVID thing right now we're all trying to get through.
Yeah, I might go into the woods this week. No, not this weekend. Next weekend. Maybe I'll go into the woods next weekend and film some stories.
Mm-hmm.
Send your requests to Simon@diamondscrew.com. Blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. That reminds me, the work of Henry the Shoemaker. What's this? Who's saying this? Misty Mater. This reminds me of the work of Henry Schumacher, the first official folklorist of Pennsylvania. He went around collecting all of the stories of the people who lived in the rural and mountainous places of Pennsylvania. Is it Shoemaker or Schumacher? Because I'm thinking Schumacher is the race driver. The Formula One racing driver.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Is there a collection of his tales, Misty? It's got. Does he have? Is it published or anything like that? Because it'd be nice to have something other than Rip Van Winkle.
Mm-hmm.
From that kind of place.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Jane Lippincott. Who's that? Oh, there we go.
Of the woman's.
Nice.
Yeah. I was studying Mary Shelley because I perform as Mary Shelley, and Mary Shelley's mother is Mary Wollstonecraft. So this was I prepared this 3 years ago. So finally, at 59 years old, I learned about Mary Wollstonecraft, who wrote The Vindication for the Rights of Women,
Oh, wow.
1780s. And I was just gobsmacked. Like, why do we not know this? Why are we not
There's so many of those stories out there.
this at all? And how her own husband, Mary Wollstonecraft's husband, when she died in childbirth, of course, because doctors didn't wash their hands, then destroyed Mary Wollstonecraft's work.
Oh,
Completely destroyed it. And it wasn't until Virginia Woolf who found her Vindication for the Rights of Women, and she said, here is the mother of the feminist. Here's the mother of the movement.
wow.
Wollstonecraft.
Yeah, there are so many stories out there that have been hidden,
Hidden.
destroyed.
Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley's daughter-in-law destroyed her work.
She had no right to do that.
She had no right to do that.
Absolutely no right. So Lauren was saying a few years ago he helped do a series that was place-based, a storefront, a garden, a factory, and the edge of a river.
Oh, great.
That sounds cool.
That sounds really cool. Well, now that we are recording our stories, it's probably time to do it again and record it.
Yes.
How are you feeling about the difference between the recording and the live Zoom experience, Simon?
So for me, so I've done a lot of these, like a lot of us, I think, over the last 8-9 months, whatever it is, 10 months. And there's been a handful that I've come off from doing, the online Zoom things, that I've actually felt really jazzed about. But that's way less than, doing a live performance with the kids. I mean, I think it's harder, at least for me, it's harder to project that audience in front of me and try and make them feel, or try and make the end viewer, whether it's a live in viewer or some of these films that we've done for, some of the festivals and whatnot, is trying to imagine them there watching. Because if you're talking to the lens, you're not looking at the picture. And so when you're looking at the lens, it's hard to imagine, 25 kids laughing and giggling in front of you. And then also that feeling of that energy that they give off, that doesn't happen. Even if even to a large extent, when you're doing a live Zoom show, the ones I've had, often the camera is facing the back of the room or the side of the room, and there's a big window. So even if there are kids in the shot, they're just these little black smudges. They're just silhouettes in the image. And so you can't really see if they're having fun and enjoying it, or if you need to adjust the story in some way.
Yes.
And recently, like this week, I've been recording this show for a library in New York, and they wanted my Where the Ravens Feed program, and that features the story of Wayland Smith, which is an incredibly dark, violent, and at the same time beautiful. If you have the same brain that I have, it's kind of a love story, but it's also a story of vengeance. And in recording it, I'm like thinking, what are the people who are going to be watching this? What are they going to get from it? What's going to be their reaction? Because I can't see it, so I can't adjust to the audience I'm listening to. So I did 2 anchor stories. I did one with Wayland Smith and I did one with a dead moon, and I sent them both to the librarian, and they watched them, and they said, "I think we'll go for the dead moon." She preferred the story of Wayland Smith. But she also knew her audience, and she didn't think her audience would appreciate it so much.
Yes.
And that's it's something that we have to be really aware of when we're telling a story.
Yes.
We have to either make sure that the audience is on board with us going really deep and really dark and slicing the bodies up and pulling out the guts, and they're with us, doing it with us, or we need to just hold off on that until we get back live.
Yes.
But there's definitely a lack of energy. I mean, I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing, but I really miss the interaction with people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hardest thing for me this whole time. I mean, we've been isolating ourselves. We're not hanging out with people. I mean, we know people that are. We're not hanging out with them.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a couple of people that have come around a couple of times. But we've probably had 3 visits to our house since March.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've gone out once, and that was to pick my daughter up from someone else's house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard not to be with that energy.
Yes.
Now we're getting into winter.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. Everyone got a happy life.
I know. I know.
Sales
I just went.
went through the roof in 2020.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So everybody bought toilet paper in March. Everyone's going to be buying vitamin D in
Yeah,
December.
happy life. Yeah. Yeah, really.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So how about you? How are you feeling about all this?
I'm kind of I'm exploring the capacities as to the best that I can to stay in the what can we do here that's new that we couldn't do. And so I'm trying to keep my focus on that.
Yeah.
There's an intimacy here that's really inarguable. Everybody is front row. We
That's true.
are right in each other's faces. There's an inarguable eye contact. That's
As long as we're not doing this.
right. But I mean for the viewer.
Yeah.
For the viewer, right? You feel directly looked at. So I think my experience is that it's what do I have to rely on now but the story? Only the story. Only the story. And the experience of a story more visual, right? More cinematic in people's minds. So the visual language is coming up more than we would if we were in the same space together.
Yeah. So I think that's what Rachel Ann brought out for me in her Snow White. Is it wasn't the images, yes, but also the words that we use, and that's Janice Del Negro as well.
Mm-hmm.
Our word choices. So when I started, we talked about Hansel and Gretel before the show started,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like they live near a forest. I just pulled it up right now. So my beginning is now. Well, one of the beginnings that I've got is once, long time ago, maybe still today, there was a forest filled with oak, pine, birch, herons, twisting streams and secret pools, rocks reputedly once the chairs of giants, laced with furs, berries, brambles, and thistles. It was a cold and cruel place at times. So that there's that beginning that I came up with, and then the other day I was thinking about Gretel, right, and I was thinking about Gretel. The girl cried out. Her brother Hansel tried to comfort her and tried to get her quiet, but her father came into the room and sat down on the bed between them. And he held them close, and he could feel their bones beneath his fingers. And when he brought them closer still, they were owl-light.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, playing around with the, wordsmithing these stories so that you're creating these images on a much deeper level.
Yes.
On a mythic level, if you will.
Level. I agree with that.
So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yes. So we'll be better storytellers.
Yeah, hopefully.
We'll get
we
better.
might be broke, but we'll be better at it.
We'll be better storytellers, right? And then we'll bring it back. We'll bring that language back again into the audience, the live experience. And
Sue has a comment here.
Okay.
That I just saw pop up. I'm having fun with my storytelling club of 8 kids on Zoom. Eye contact, fun. Closeness of our faces while telling. Volume, use of hands, yes. Also different now. It is fun experimenting.
Yes, that's great.
It really is. And Misty was also chimed in with, Rachel's word choices so alliterative and poetic. They were.
Yes, they were. That was so fun. Wasn't that fun? Snow White, Snow White, Snow White, Snow White.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. I really love that.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 3:20.
Oh, look. What are we doing?
I don't know. We're having way
We
too
have to
much
go
fun,
be
I think.
productive.
Shh. I don't know. Like, is anybody looking for us? I'm not sure. Oh, dear. So, folks, I don't want to take up any more of your time today, and I certainly don't want to take up any more of Megan's. She's been so generous to give me this 3 hours and 20 minutes plus the time beforehand. So I hope you've enjoyed the show today. You always can find it on repeat because it's always out there. If you want to help contribute, then you can support the show by doing that. There's Patreon, which is kind of a fun place. It's a holding. It's like my what's the word I'm looking for? Storage shed.
Yes. Yes, I like that.
It's my storage shed.
Yes. It's where you are housing your collection.
That's it. It's where I'm housing my collection. I was thinking of those like space pods, that you see outside people's homes. It's like, I'm not going to clear my stuff out. I'm just going to move it out of the house and into this pod, and then I'm going to fill my house up with crap again.
Then we pay people to build storage so we can pay them to store stuff so we can get more.
It's true. So, folks, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'll be back next week. I can't remember who I've got next week. Maybe I don't have anyone for next week. Maybe I should start thinking about next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here again. Megan, you're absolutely brilliant. Thanks for being here with us. And we'll have to do this again sometime.
I do. I really do. My heart goes out to all of you and all of us as we grow up, as we let this time grow us up. Right? Because what else can we do?
I know. Well, we can go insane.
That's right. We can get miserable. Let's just get miserable.
Right. We can climb into the basement and suck our thumbs and go, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Thanks, folks. See you next Friday. Be well.
Bye.